Hi, my name is Stephanie and I am 32 years old. I have been nominated as a hero because of my work as an advocate and as a mentor for girls who have been victimized as well as for those who are at risk of victimization. The first time I recognized that God had this purpose on my life was when someone reached out to me, a young lady from the grill. We had never met, but she reached out to me on social media because she had seen me in my capacity as a journalist in a TV show. I was playing a fictional character, but interestingly, that in that role as a journalist, I was covering a story on the rape of a girl, and this young lady watching the show reached out to me in real life, and we built a relationship, and she reached out to me on the basis of just needing help because in her situation she was being victimized by family members and other persons in her community, and she just didn't feel safe telling or sharing it with anyone else, and somehow something in her led her to reach out to me, and that was about 6 or 7 years ago. I still have a flourishing relationship with her, and from then on I realized, that there were many other young girls like herself, or peers even, persons within my own age group that would share these very gruesome stories of things that had either happened to them in the past or things that were currently happening to them. And in 2015, when I reached some sort of turning point in my life in terms of really needing to understand my purpose, God revealed to me that He wanted me to be dedicated to helping women and girls who were being unjustly dealt with, abused, and needed help with accessing resources to protect them as well as to help them to be restored. I don't think I had expectations. I just knew that I needed to respond to this call on my life. And so I just decided to start equipping myself as best as possible. I started reaching out to other organizations and serving and gaining whatever resources I could. I remember participating in a year-long lay counseling course just because I knew, if I got some sort of understanding of counseling, that would help me in this field I was going to be entering in. I had not done social service as a area of study, although I would have been pretty au fait with service. I've been involved in all kinds of voluntary activities from high school up to this point, but still, there are certain skills and a certain knowledge base that's required, but things that you learn as you go along. So I don't know that I had expectations, but I would definitely say that whatever I expected from traversing this course has just been shaped along as I've gone along the way. First of all, every single life that I've had the opportunity to impact positively is a highlight. It's very hard to pinpoint one thing, as you can imagine. But I will go back to that very same young lady that I mentioned before. She's like my little star. And that's because I've gone through so much with her personally. Like I said, she lived in a different parish from the one that I live in. But when she moved to Kingston, this was the first time that I ever went with someone to, file a report with the police for rape. I have been able to be very intimate with the process of reporting that crime and getting a window into what the experience is like for a woman, a young lady, in having to do something like that. And by the grace of God, I believe through the work that I've done, as well as the the platform that I've been able to create through this initiative called Girls First International, which I probably would say is also a major highlight of the journey. The fact that I have this platform that exists. Essentially, through that platform, I had been able to connect the young lady to other resources, which essentially is what the platform is created to do. It's created to bridge that gap between the access to resources for those who are at risk. And yeah, just the fact that I've been able to witness the process of healing in her life and the growth. She's now a fairly functional member of our society despite the tremendous levels of trauma that she has gone through throughout her life. And believe me, there's still a lot of work to be done, needs for counseling. But I've been able, again, through the platform of Girls First, to connect with so many people, so many other organizations, and to see active change happening in this space where we've had a culture of silence and inactivity towards girls who have been raped, sexually victimized in any other way, assaulted, abused, whether it's sexual or not. The fact is that we have a very passive way of dealing with these things, and just to know that that culture is being addressed, and I believe there's behavior change that's happening. I would say that's a great encouragement. Many people wonder, how do you manage to hear all of these stories? They are so horrific. I mean, girls who have been raped by their brothers, other family members, girls who at almost every different location that they have lived, they've had to encounter some sort of sexual victimization. Girls who have been raped by taxi men and being driven off into some dark place. So several different stories. I believe that the greatest challenge is spiritual, in that I've been able to see the process of healing in the lives of some of these girls and women, as well as I've seen them go through cycles of more abuse. And that's very hard to witness. It's very painful knowing, what almost feels like so much work, only to see that they're back in another situation where they're being victimized, or they're probably, based on certain ways in which they are coping with the trauma, there may be some unhealthy patterns that have developed in their lives, and at that point sometimes it can feel like there's only so much you can do and no more as the service provider. But I believe that what I have to do in this position is to remind myself that there's a spiritual war at hand. And so when things are not manifesting in the physical life in a positive way, it's easy to become discouraged. But I always have to channel that kind of feeling that I have into prayers, essentially, and carrying them before God. It reminds me that this entire journey, this entire process of transforming lives is not something that I can do or any one person can do. It's really something that only God can do. And so just having to come to terms with that sometimes is challenging, because truly you realize that you really have no control. I can do the best that I can do to help this person, but there are so many factors at play that it really needs to be committed into the hands of God, and He needs to just do what only He can do. It's positive for the most part. Certainly persons are verbally encouraging. I would say that sometimes that verbal encouragement being converted into action is less prevalent. In one sense, I understand, there are many people I've come across who have said, boy, this is just not something that they can handle. This is not their calling. And I respect those views and perspectives. What I appreciate, however, even more is when persons will say, well, I'm not able to help in this way, but I can help in that way. And for them to just pour themselves out in that way is remarkable. Christina Milford. She's the founder of the Pregnancy Resource Center, otherwise known as Hebron House. They are based in Montego Bay. And I consider her a hero, as well as she is one of my role models, particularly in this work of reaching out to girls at risk. As the name suggests of her initiative, she has helped many teenage girls who have been through crisis pregnancies, girls who have been trafficked, girls who have just gone through some awful things in their lives. Yeah, and I really, look up at her as a Jamaican and as a survivor. She also is a survivor. She was raped at 19 years old and was pregnant as a result of that. She did not have an abortion. She had her child, and all of those are values that are in line with my beliefs, and just the fact that she represents a lot of what I believe is the hope of any person, man or woman, who has gone through any form of victimization. That I could actually go for this full body, like not halfway or partially, but throw myself in it. I think initially I did not allow the work of this mission to fully manifest in my life. I guess it was something I just did partly. Even now, I could say that it's still, one of many things that I do. However, I have seen the value in taking a level of focus and dedication to this work. It might not be the most financially rewarding task, but I have seen where God takes care of those who take care of his business. He has given me a mandate. He's asked me to do something, and I treasure that, and I take it very seriously. And so, yeah, I would tell myself then, just as I remind myself now, that it's not about money. It really is about changing lives, and God will provide. So, yes, I think that's it for me.